You guys know that we love talking about Auburn uniforms here. And of course, anytime we get an opportunity to do that, there is one individual that we're going to have here to talk with us. We're going to introduce him in just a second. But as Auburn begins their 2024 football campaign, there's a few changes to the football uniform that you may or may not be aware of. Let's get onto all those things right now. War Eagle Auburn family, and a special War Eagle and welcome to those of you that consider yourselves part of the E2C Network family. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending some time being a part of our little family within the Auburn family. I'm your host, Kyle Loomis, back again for another edition of Auburn Aesthetics and History. And of course, when we get into that, as I've given him that terminology with his name, it's Clint Richardson of the Auburn Uniform Database back here with us again. Welcome, buddy.
I feel like I just saw you.
It was, 2 weeks ago that we did something?
No, it was, yeah, I think it was. I thought it was last week, but it was 2 weeks ago.
Definitely wasn't last week because I had something else going on. But anyway, we're back together again. It's almost like you like hanging out with me or something.
I mean, I would if you weren't 5 minutes late today, but
hold on. I was not 5 minutes late today.
I was late.
Anyway, we are here to talk about Auburn uniforms. We're not going to worry about late or not. We're just happy that we got here together today. So a couple reminders. Whenever Clint gets here with us, we like to focus in on Auburn uniform stuff specifically. Sometimes we get into other nuanced topics. We're going to be talking about Auburn football's uniforms for this 2024 season. I know what some of y'all are already thinking. Is it Nike? Is it? No, folks. Nike does not come until next year, July 1st, 2025. So slow your roll. Chill out.
Kyle got it.
Hey, it's like I've been listening or something.
It's
Clint.
amazing what happens when you listen, right?
When you read the articles.
Read the freaking article. That's going on a new shirt. It's got to be, right?
It should be on the back too. Auburn Uniform Database. Read the freaking article. Exactly what needs to happen. Yep. So we're here today to talk about what's new with the Auburn football uniform. And let me just go ahead and say this, folks. You're going to say first, well, what is new when we show you the examples of it? There's actually a few new things on there. And to me, as someone who doesn't love to dive into the details, I probably would have been just like you all and say, listen, I'm just saying, I would have just probably glossed over some of these things. But that's why we've got Clint here. That's why we've got Clint that runs the Auburn Uniform Database to tell you the finer details of all these things. And folks, this is history. This is it. This is the last time we'll be talking about Auburn, Under Armour, Auburn football uniforms. Has it soaked in yet, Clint?
A little bit.
Have you been ready for this change for a while, haven't you?
I've been preparing.
His Super Bowl has come and gone, but he's got plenty more. Super Bowls.
No, we got a Super Bowl. We got a 2-year Super Bowl over here.
How about this? It was the day that Nike deal got officially announced, and I'm sure you knew it was coming a little bit more than everybody else. You probably knew that was going to be like the 1989 Iron Bowl, where everybody was waiting for it. Everybody knew it had to eventually happen. It just seemed like it never would. But I think that's what I would compare it to, the 1989 Iron Bowl in Jordan Hare for you.
I think that's surprisingly a fair comparison from you.
It's like I do this for a living or something like that.
I mean the quality of which is up for debate, but
Goodbye, Clint. Goodbye, Clint.
Got him.
All right. Before we go down any more rabbit holes, just giving each other shots back and forth.
That's what we're here for, right?
That's what we do here. There's your opening salvo, so to speak. We want to talk about this uniform, and obviously you have written an article to go along with our conversation here. We want to encourage people to go check that article out. We will be putting that in the description link as well, but you can also go to auburnuniforms.com, and it will be on the front page.
Yep.
And get all the finer point details here. So I don't know how much Clint will go into us from that article, but he's got some visual aids. Woo. Things like that. And
it's a special time when Kyle and I get together.
It is a special. Well, it's just we've been doing this for so long together. By the way, I was thinking about that. I'm sorry, one more tangent. I was thinking about when you and I started the very first offshoot of what was the Ever to Conquer podcast, and we started making it a network with the Inside the Jungle basketball show. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
And Bruce
What year was
Pearl.
that?
It was when Bruce Pearl arrived. You and I started.
2015.
Yes, 2015, and we had the conversation. Hey, Bruce Pearl is going to be special. We got to talk about this. So. Yep. He's been around for some time. Towards the end of the show, back half, whatever, whenever we feel like we've covered everything we need to in this topic, we will let Clint take some comments and questions. And you guys, let us know that you're here by smashing that like button. Let us know where you're checking in from. Clint, let's get into it here. We got some stuff to talk about with this new Auburn uniform. What do you want to tell, show, whatever first?
Because it is a tell and show.
Tell and show. Not a show and tell. Tell and show.
So I think the best way to start this is to kind of look backwards. I've got a couple of jerseys down here that are going to kind of walk us through the history of what an Auburn football jersey has looked like under Under Armour. So we're going to start with the first one. And this style may look familiar. This is the Cam Newton style.
Cam Newton.
This was worn 2006 to 2010 because, of course, the 2010 season had to be the last year that the style was worn. To me, this is the best looking Auburn football uniform. And you look at it, it's got the big stripes, it's got the very reflective stripes, it's got the big numbers. This just looks good. It's all mesh, which I think is probably the downside of it, but this was kind of the first style.
Yeah.
And then from there, we get the horrendous truncated stripes jerseys.
Horrendous? What's horrendous about that?
I hate these. These are what Nick Marshall wore. We'll start with that.
Maybe that's why I'm fond of it.
So, as you can see, hopefully you can see, there's these two seams right here on the collarbone, essentially. And they also run on the back of the jersey. And that makes this shoulder sleeve so much smaller than it ever should be. It should always wrap around to the front, like they should always do. If you remember, the pants had the tapered stripe, so they didn't fully touch the bottom of the pants. Again, that was the template style, not a design change, and it looked so bad. They looked cheap, they looked too small, and I loathe this design.
That's a big word for you.
I love Ontario McCaleb. I love the players who wore this style, but it's awful. And I could not wait until 2015 when they replaced it. And we replaced it with such a better look. A much better look. And everything actually is built well. You've got fully sized stripes that look good again. I know the numbers and the nameplate are always something that people kind of harp on to. These are a little bit bigger, but again, that was all template design kind of regulated because of that. But, this was a great update. And I don't have the most recent style, the 2019 to 2023 season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that style, but I think it just did a few things better. It's kind of what you want to see with these templates. You want to see some progression, and that's a tangent that I don't want to get onto tonight, but some of these companies are not actually progressing. Actually, all three companies are regressing with their templates, but
there you go.
So last year during the practice portion, fall practice, we see a new practice jersey debut.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's just practice. We're talking practice.
We're talking practice.
But look at that collar. Let's see if it'll get it.
Oh,
see
yeah.
That collar?
Yeah, I can see that in good detail now.
See the Under Armour logo right there on the collar?
Right there in the middle.
Yep. This was the basis for the new template that we just got this week, or for this season.
So basically what I'm hearing is they did a trial run for this template last year and maybe got good feedback about it, and thus
So, and if you check
ran
out
with
the
it.
Auburn database and the article on this entire piece, there was a very similar template that a couple of teams wore last year, maybe the year prior, and it had basically two V-shaped seams, which again, we're going back to that double seam that just is awful. And like UAB wore it, Colorado State wore it. UAB colored theirs in, which made it look even worse. But we've had kind of this is kind of like the 1.5 or 2.5 version of this template design, and it's a vastly different build of a jersey. And some of these pictures don't really show it. I think you're going to see it a lot when it comes on the field. And if you ever get a chance to hold one of these brand new game jerseys in hand, I think it's going to really look a lot different than the ones we just showed. So,
yeah,
you want to dive into this thing?
Well, yeah, and one point that I want to bring up with people that say, "Well, there's nothing new with this," and I think you bring up a good thing to say there is for us as just the general fan who doesn't dive into things like this, we're looking at the jerseys typically from a in the stands point of view. Great thing with TV, 4K TVs, you can see all these little details now. So maybe you can start noticing things if you're already kind of attuned to that, but you're going to miss some of these things unless you're holding it like Clint is right now, or you're knowing what to look for. So I like that you walked us through your little templates. But what I'm going to start thinking though, Clint, every time we see a new practice jersey, is that going to be the next year? We are changing companies, so it could be done
if I cover it, possibly so.
That's how it's
and for a slight tangent off of the practice jerseys, like when you see an Oregon football practice, most of those players are wearing a prototype of a new template.
Okay.
Because Nike and Oregon are, of course, located 20 minutes from each other. They get to kind of field test a lot of their new design options on Oregon football players and get immediate feedback from the players and all that kind of stuff. So, you're not going to really see that with Auburn, but you will kind of see some new elements trickle in during practice that will likely get used for a game uniform.
So there you go. All you got to know is just watch practice stuff from now on, and you'll see a preview from next year. I know that's not what you said, but that's what I'm interpreting into it.
That's why you should pay attention to practice, right?
That we were talking about practice. All right. Are you ready for this to come on the screen, sir?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's talk about this in a little bit more detail. Again, please do go check out the article. You guys will have a link for that. And obviously, even if you can't access the link for some weird reason, auburnuniforms.com to read all about this. Clint, dive into it with us.
So when you look at this, I think the first thing that's really going to be noticeable is the big collar. And if you look at the old uniform, it's a very thin collar. And let me see if I can't pull that up real quick. Here you go.
Oh, okay.
You see Jarquez wearing it. And you can see just how thin this collar is right here.
It is very thin.
I'm going to turn off.
Now that's kind of making me feel like it's going to make me, I don't know. It's going to make me feel a little bit like claustrophobic or something like that now that I'm looking at the difference. Wow. I didn't realize that would make me feel that way.
Yeah, it's a much thinner design, and who knows why. But you've also got this horizontal seam that runs basically from the armpits to the collar.
Yeah.
And it takes like a route around the SEC logo and the Under Armour logo.
Right, it does.
And just because of the shape of it, I've always referred to this as the file tab template. That's what it looks like. It looks like a file tab. If you're in your folders, you're filing at it, that's what this looks like. So that's really what I call this style, and the 2015 to 2018 style had texture on the shoulder sleeves.
Yeah.
And it's on the body. That's the Under Armour armor grid armor pattern, and kind of changed how the stripes looked on camera and in person kind of matted the finish of them a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the big change. And here's the new style again. So you've got this big um,
Collar.
collar. The base of the collar has a mesh pattern. Let me see if this picture might not show it much better, but like right in here is a little bit of the mesh pattern to kind of allow it to breathe a little bit better.
Okay.
And then from
I feel
there,
less claustrophobic now.
probably should be. And then from here, you go out and you've got these two seams that go out from either side, kind of
Yeah.
across the collarbone. But what's weird about this is probably the weirdest part of this jersey to me. This seam goes out around the shoulder and connects to the back. And what that does is, as you can see, it changes the look of the shoulders where
It
the
does.
sleeves would sit. So, Kyle, can you put me full screen again real quick?
Sure can. Let's bring you all the way up.
All right.
I can actually bring you probably full screen if I try to do
Oh,
this.
you just swapped us. Oh, there you go. You're gone. Bye, Kyle.
Because I'm here. Don't forget
Bye,
me.
Kyle. He's gone, guys. We take over. So you can kind of see like this is a separate seam, and it's a rounded seam. These have kind of turned into, we've been calling these shoulder caps. It literally just kind of caps onto the side of the jersey. And Kyle, if you bring up the picture again.
Yep.
My weatherman.
I'm bringing you back over here.
This is no longer a shoulder cap. It's kind of more rectangular lengthwise around the shoulder. And it just creates kind of a slightly awkward look to it. And I think it works, but it's a really weird. I don't know how you go from the cap to this wraparound motion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that has allowed the shoulder stripes to kind of come forward onto the chest ever so slightly. And I think that we've got some slightly bigger stripes. It's really hard for me to say that without breaking out a tape measure on the physical jersey in front of me. But I think if there's one thing you take away from this template discussion, it's you get bigger stripes. Stripe matters. Stripe size matters.
See, Clint, when I think about the levels of detail and effort you go into this, I would fully expect you to break out the tape measure and measure these stripes. So I think I'm gonna need some homework from you.
I have done that based off of the player number size. I did that with the last template. I took a measurement of the Under Armour logo and basically pixel measured the numbers, and I don't want to do that again. So physical or nothing.
One thing that I note here, and now that you're pointing out the straight across and the tab look over the SEC and the Under Armour logo, now that I'm looking at that, it's more odd. This follows it follows the collarbone more. It makes it almost look a little bit more of a natural fit.
And it might, I don't know how it's gonna, I don't know the inner details of these things because these companies don't publish a lot of those and like why they did it this way. But I can understand that it probably does kind of fit against the shoulder pads a little bit better.
I mean, that's kind of, I'm as a former football player, like I wore the pads for 3 years.
Oh God.
I played a little ball.
Bench playing kicker.
No, starting kicker, 100%. Was told I probably could have walked on at Auburn if I wanted to. Y'all don't want me to walk. I literally said to my coach, I said, I can't do that to my team. I cannot be put in a position because what would have happened is it'd been Ben Patton all over again. Our kicker goes down. I'm the guy that has to take the game-winning kick in the Iron Bowl.
Kyle, let's keep going. We're good.
Okay, sorry.
We don't need you.
I'm sorry. So we're talking about the collarbone here, the collar, so to speak. What else?
Neil. Oh man, see, Neil knows what's up.
I'm just ignoring Neil at this point.
All right, so I don't think I have a really good picture. Okay, I do. We're gonna pull up this picture now.
Visual aids.
Yep.
Here,
All
I'll
right.
let you. We get yourself situated.
Nope, you're
And
good. You're good.
okay.
I got it. So this might not be the best photo to show it, but it's the only one I got available. So
Yeah.
again, when you look at these new shoulder styles, it's vastly different than kind of the traditional style. It's
Very
supposed to be
square.
kind of, yeah, it's very square. It's supposed to be kind of rounded, kind of look like a sleeve cuff. Um, but look at the bottom of the sleeve and how it connects to kind of the underarm section. Again, it's
Uh,
very squared. It's not rounded like a normal shoulder sleeve cuff. So what's
some would
all
say Under Armour.
shut up. But like what's really
Sorry.
weird about this design is the sleeve cuff underneath the arm. It's it's not the same thickness as
Mm.
above. It wraps so much further down the torso. So I'm curious to see kind of how that's going to look. It's probably for to keep it tighter on the torso rather than up on the arms and creating that slack that might be able to grab.
Right.
I don't know, but it's just an interesting choice. But again, you can kind of see like the back or that front seam that forms the top of the shoulders wraps back here, and you've got the seam that wraps around. So you've got a vastly different construction of this template than what we have seen the last couple of years. And again, this isn't really going to show up on camera to the normal person, but when you dive into the details, this is what you're going to see.
Yeah. That the first thing that sticks out to me is the very square look. And you know what my first reaction was, do you remember the what they call it, cowboy collars that the linebackers and fullbacks
Mhm.
used to wear? They're obviously not there, but that's kind of what it like evoked for me, like I don't know, you want to call it a core memory, but made me feel like. But as WT pointed out a second ago, and this has been the case for uniforms for a long, long time, they you're allowed to tackle with the uniform. So if it's hanging loose, you've seen pictures of running backs dragging somebody,
Yep.
ripping, So they obviously are finding ways, whether it looks right or not, to make it tighter and tighter or
Yes,
more contour fitting.
and when you go back to like the 2015 design when it was released, Under Armour touted that as an ungrabbable jersey because that armor grid texture, which to me I feel like it would create more friction and be easier to grab,
Yeah.
but it was a very form-fitting suit. And you've seen, the old Adidas NFL jerseys were basically stretchy bands because they were just so they would like just vacuum suck onto your body. They were so freaking tight. And so you've seen in the last probably 10 years, all three manufacturers kind of strike that balance between very comfortable to wear
Mhm.
and the performance of it. So they're all going to tell you that this jersey is zero point 0.2 ounces lighter than the last one, and it wicks water away 0.5% better than the old one. Like this is all the crap that you're going to get when you read into these press releases and all this kind of stuff, and it's just obnoxious. It's so bad, but that's what you get with these things. So, and when you kind of dive into all three companies and what they've been doing, I think Unbeaten Late mentioned the um,
This one, the nameplate or
no, 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 the Nike, a former
vapor.
Nike one. Yep, the Vapor Fuse. So the 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 Nike Vapor Unlimited was essentially the perfect template. It was clean lines, so much better, and then they just started iterating on it and made it worse. So what we've got now is worse than what and you see that with all three manufacturers right now, and it's really frustrating to see.
Right.
But if you go back to the new Auburn Under Armour uniform, this is going to be a detail that may actually get picked up and cause a few ruffles. Um, the logo on the jersey and the
Mhm.
pants is no longer a fabric embroidered logo. It's a sewn on rubber patch, and it's going to catch the light at such a different rate than what we're used to, that I think this thing is going to just catch your eye a lot more than it has in the past. And again, I'm very curious to see what this is going to look like under the lights, under bright sunlight during the day games. And this is kind of the biggest detailed change of this template. And all teams that are wearing it are going to be sporting this. Even the AU logo on the pants is kind of rendered in a very similar fashion.
So why the switch? Like, what is, because they don't make, as you pointed out, sometimes even all the big companies make decisions that sometimes don't make sense, but there's got to be a reason. They don't just do something to do something, right? I mean, what's the reasoning for that?
You see a lot of technology advances in this industry, and we've probably had about 10 seasons of the Super Bowl, the World Series, and I think the NBA Finals, where they use a different type of patch on the jersey, and it's like Chrome Flex or something like that. I forget what the name of it is, but it's a plastic patch that just has this texture on it that is designed to reflect more light, and it's just supposed to be more eye-catching and more noticeable than a traditional cloth embroidered patch. And I think that's just what we're seeing. A lot of these, there's so much competition for your attention and to be seen, and there's only so much available real estate on a jersey that you want to be seen. So that's what I really think this is. And again, if you go back to, the practice jersey, you go back to the basketball uniforms that were revealed last year, Under Armour has been placing the logo right here in the center of the chest.
Yeah.
For that perfect viewpoint so that it's easily seen. It's not off to the side. Nobody wants to be off to the side.
Right.
But even Notre Dame is going to be wearing this new template, but because they don't have to balance the Under Armour logo with a conference logo, they took the Under Armour logo right in the center of the chest as well.
When I look at this, it feels like it would come off easily. Do you get that sense at all? And I get that it's sewn on. I get that the other way is the same sewing, right? I would assume, just different material.
Well, I mean, the embroidery is embroidered directly onto the fabric.
Okay, so onto the fabric.
Yeah, it's a slightly different application. I do think that we might see something in some game, maybe not Auburn, but another Under Armour team wearing this template, where it might flake off at some point. But these, there's adhesive on the back of these as well. So it's not just that they're being held on by the stitches. It's not just that they're glued on. It's both. And I think you're going to see it be a little bit more difficult to rip off than that. But yeah, they might not be moving, but I wouldn't be surprised if you do see one fall off.
I had this vision, Clint, in the final game for all those people out there that scream and say, I know that the players hate Under Armour. Somebody's gonna take it, rip it off, and hold it up to the crowd in the final home game, and then you're just gonna have people going ballistic over that.
That would be hilarious if that happens.
It'll make people like me cry because I am not unopposed to us being with Under Armour. But listen, hey, that's an interesting choice to change to this type of material and that. And it's one of those things I don't think that right away I would notice, but now that you've got us zoomed in on it, look at it, it's completely different and it sticks out more.
It's entirely different. And I think even the layperson who isn't really going to pay attention to this is going to notice this. If you don't notice anything else about this uniform, you will notice this one.
So you brought up, what does it look like in different lights? In your opinion, where is it going to stick out the most? In the early game, the midday games, the night games under the lights? Where does it stick out the most?
I don't have a clue.
I'm going to guess.
It's going to be curious to see how it plays out.
I think it's going to stick out more under the lights at nighttime games because that's not a natural light, right?
I could imagine that's probably the case because you've got multiple light sources, not just one single source. So I can get behind that as well.
And because that natural light's going to almost dissipate a little bit more, and it'll look actually, natural. But that's now I'm not going to be able to unsee the instead of watching the running back run the ball, I'm gonna be like, well, how's that logo
Well,
look on there?
speaking of things that you're not going to be able to unsee,
Oh Lord.
take a look at this pant stripe.
Oh no. I forgot about it. I looked at it.
Look at this
Why'd
blank space at the hip.
What's up with that?
It doesn't go all the way to the top
Why?
because there's no more belts. Belts are dead.
Who
Belts
needs a
are
belt?
Gone.
Who needs a belt?
But yeah, they have now gotten rid of belts. They tried this a couple of years ago and had a couple of players wear drawstring elastic waistband pants, and it seemed to be like a player choice per se. We've already seen Nike and Adidas kind of get rid of belts over the last couple of years, so it was kind of expected that Under Armour was going to do the same thing. But I think this new set kind of solidifies that. But I think we're going to see every single player wearing the elastic waistbands, pants, and for whatever reason, and I think this is only an Under Armour issue. Again, I'm not the textile expert. I don't know why they did this or why it's happening, but because of the use of the elastic waistband, the stripe will not go all the way to the top of the hip. And this might not have been noticeable or as noticeable maybe 10 years ago, but now you've got players who are wearing more the crop top look.
Right.
And
Jarquez.
Yes. And you're seeing a lot more of the waist exposed. So we might see this a lot. And it might, as Gardner said, drive you nuts. And it's a really odd choice. And again, I wish I knew exactly why they had to do this. There has to be a reason behind it.
Right.
But this is what we get. And the good news is, despite what this picture shows, the pant stripe will go all the way down to the bottom of the knee. This is just rolled up differently on Walker White. Is that his name?
Waka, yes.
Okay. So it's just a little unique, weird thing that this is, and I don't know why it's happening. But here's a full body image that you can kind of see exactly just how everything is kind of fitting, especially on the jersey. You can kind of see that this is a very different build. And it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out.
And see, these are the things that now I can't unsee, and I will be focusing on every single game because of you. Because of you. I want to go.
What I'm here for.
I want to go to this no belts thing. A couple things stick out to me. Again, it's one less thing for opponents to grab, right? Even though the belts are very tight fitting. Having I played a little ball, worn them myself, but whereas like some quarterbacks, especially, they like to have their play or their little, what do I call them, their muffs or whatever, or their play sheet right there, their towel. What are you going to do with all that?
Well, that's a great question. Who knows? I wish I knew the way that this is built. I expect you'll see some players still doing it. It's not, you're going to see more quarterback towels falling off, I imagine. It's just going to slip out of the back of the pants, not looped around the belt. So,
which is probably what they want.
But again, just to bring some more context to that, we have seen teams basically implement a belt tunnel. So your pants have belt loops,
right?
But we've got belt tunnels that just cover much more of the belt, so it's not as visible. And that might have also played into you're not going to see as much of the belt anyways. It's not going to be as visible and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What about this? The incomplete pant stripe will be less noticeable in the white uniforms.
It might be more noticeable.
How so? You don't think it? You're just trying to be contrary.
Yeah. Again, you're gonna see a lot of bare skin between the jersey and the pants. So I think that might play into it. I mean, again, we just got to see how this is going to play out.
Right, and like nobody leaves. And shirts, their jerseys don't stay tucked in, hard, and nobody really wants them tucked in these days.
Well, but and that goes back to the discussion earlier about the form-fitting tight jerseys. Like, we're almost seeing players kind of, rebel against that with the loose hanging undershirts. What
Yeah.
point does it do if you have a very tight fitting core jersey and pants, but now you've got a long sleeve t-shirt that hangs down and slats underneath your arm and is just flapping in the wind? Like, that's something to be grabbed. And again, we've seen a ton of videos of running backs and wide receivers getting tackled by that. So it's it's a little contrary and self-contradicting, but that's just the talking points that these companies give us at this point.
Certain talking points. They need to. Well, never mind. I won't, I won't go there. All right. So this is the new look. So we've talked about the shoulder situation right there, how it now wraps around and into the back, the logo attachment and material, the belt, and there's a more wide shot for you all. What is there anything else, or are these the major points?
These are really the major points. If you want, I'll just tease this just slightly up here. There's a handy dandy graphic on the website to show you every single change.
There you go.
All pointed out. If you need to walk through this again at your own pace, if you're a visual learner, it's all right here. Just all points it out. So again, there's a couple of other parts of this that we're just not really going to see on the field as much. Just the construction of this template. So here's the side by side. I've got side by sides on all of these articles that kind of detail the uniform and what's different. So it's all right here.
So with that in mind, obviously we're going to take questions and stuff about this topic especially, but anything that you guys want to talk to Clint. But let me ask this question to kind of start rounding out our conversation about that.
Neil,
do you like stop, I'm trying to keep my concentration. Do you like this template more than the previous one?
Is that to me or to chat?
To you? Well, to the chat too, obviously. I would love to hear their opinions, but you're the expert. Do you like it more or less? You have to choose.
I had to choose. I'm going to say less, just because I think it's such an unconventional build of the jersey. But I think that what this is going to allow the uniform to look like, I think it might be more. I might like it more. So again, we just have to see what these look like on the field. So that game one, everybody's going to look at, how's the quarterback look, how's the running backs look, how the wide receiver hands looking. I'm going to be looking at how the uniform looks.
But when things start, well, we're going to pray that they don't get bad. Then you'll start critiquing other things like how the uniform looks and stuff like that. But we've heard it from Clint that he, at least on right now, and you can change your mind, it's maybe you like it a little bit less than the previous one. Yeah. This is Under Armour's last year with us. Do you think this experiment was done on purpose because it was our last year, or is this something that was already in the pipeline to do? Thoughts on that?
I'm glad you mentioned that, Neil. It's a good thing I don't know where you live, because I'll be coming for you, my guy. Because a template lifespan is typically about 4 seasons. So we had 2006 to 2004, or 2010 is kind of an outlier. 2011 to 2014, 2015 to 2018, and then this last one went 2019 to 2023. But what was in the middle of that? COVID just wrecked so much of the uniform supply chain line, and I think that delayed this uniform a year is my guess. So we were kind of due for one last year. I think we're getting it this year regardless.
Right.
And you also have to remember that these uniform orders are placed a year to 2 years in advance. So these weren't ordered last month. They weren't ordered 2 weeks before the Nike announcement in April. They were ordered a year ago, 2 years ago. So they, regardless of what the move was going to be after this season, whether Auburn was going to stick with Under Armour or move away, but this year's players needed to wear something. And we've again seen that with softball debuted a new uniform this year.
Right.
Baseball debuted a new uniform this year. Just today, found out that Auburn volleyball has 2 new uniforms at least for this upcoming season. Soccer has 3 new uniforms for this upcoming season. And so, like, that train doesn't stop just because the relationship is ending
Right.
eventually.
Right.
Players still need something to wear. You can argue that there might not be enough wear and tear on the jersey, sure, but like there's still budgets that have to be spent, allowances to and from Under Armour that need to be spent. So like this isn't just July 1st, 2025 is coming around the
Right.
bend. Screw everybody, let's be done with this. Like these are still two companies that have to have a working relationship, and with players and athletes and people who are still in the middle of all of it. So you still got to be able to buy jerseys and buy apparel and buy footwear and all this kind of stuff. So that's really what you're seeing right now. Not we're preparing for the end of this already.
And I'm glad I prompted that question because I wanted you to talk a little bit about that aspect of it. But when I'm just maybe I read too much into these situations.
You do.
I do, but this is my job, right? If I didn't figure out something to talk about, we'd all be sitting here looking at each other like this. And that'd be it. Auburn's, even as bad as football has been the last couple of years, Auburn's a pretty big brand. And I just wonder sometimes if they didn't see the writing on the wall and if they wanted to try something new and get it out there on some eyes, because Auburn's a good place to do it. And you're right. I mean, like this has been something that's been in the works, maybe even has been delayed for a little while. But I just wonder sometimes are decisions made to try things at a certain time or something like that, or they ordered knowing what may or may not happen, because Auburn's a big brand and Auburn is a brand that will get a lot of attention on it.
Well, and to kind of combat that thought, like Kevin Plank was here in Auburn multiple times over the last year and a half, courting Auburn to re-sign. And, we already know that footwear is kind of the big issue with Under Armour and why Auburn is moving away from them. And a new jersey is not going to fix that, and tempting Auburn with a new shiny jersey. And again, you have to remember that Auburn has to purchase these things. Mm-hmm. And if Under Armour said, hey, we want you to test this out, Auburn has all the right to say no. So like, this is just, I think the biggest takeaway from this question is this is just the natural lifespan of this product in this industry. It's 3 to 4 seasons and get it replaced, and 3 to 4 seasons and get it replaced. It's just how this works.
And it's exactly why Nike will not be here for another year, because there is cycles. There are
cycles and there's legalities in play.
Right. Exactly. So takeaways from the new template. Again, if you're somebody just out there saying, what the heck, I don't see much different, look into the details. Check Clint's article out. Obviously, some of the major things that we pointed out here were the situation around the collarbone going around to the back, how the logo is now attached / material. And then, of course, what now we all will not be able to unsee, that hip, that open hip spot for the stripe that doesn't come up all the way. We want to take comments and questions from Clint. So if you guys are for Clint, if you guys got some specific topics that you'd like for a hip, we've got a couple from the chat that maybe you can expound on a little bit more from earlier on. But this feels like a good place at this moment to have you have the opportunity to plug, obviously, where they can find your stuff and support you a little bit.
I'm sorry, I'm just going back and reading through chat.
I know you are. I know
you froze on me too. So
I did
a little bit, but
Uh-oh.
You're good. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, Neil was making me laugh.
Okay. So plug away, sir. This is your opportunity to share people where they can obviously get the article, but and how they get there, easiest way and ways to support you.
Check out auburnuniforms.com. It's going to be the very first thing you see on the website. You can follow me on Twitter at ClintAU24 and Facebook and Instagram at Auburn Uniforms. Yesterday was actually the Auburn Uniform Database's 11th birthday. So we've been celebrating that. I got cookie cake in the other room that I'm going to go finish as soon as we're done with this.
You didn't invite me?
Who are you?
You should have what you should have done is visual aid time. Have the cookie cake here on the
It's
screen.
already half eaten.
So what? Just make us all jealous. We're all about visual aids here.
I mean, we've got enough visual aids.
We do. All right. We'll do Q&A time here with the rest of our available time. Dalton, I think you may be coming into the chat a little bit late. We've kind of answered this, but I'll bring it up on the screen. Do you think Hugh and the other coaches have already ordered from Nike, talked to, approved things, etc.? As Clint said, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, this was done way before. This decision was done without them mainly, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I think you're going to have the coaches add input into, they added input into Cohen and company making this decision. Whether they have actually picked out individual items, the coaches probably haven't. Again, they've probably added input. The equipment teams very likely have already ordered things because they have to get things ready for this time next year, and this is a 1.5 to 2 year turnaround. So we're already on a tight crunch as is. If you believe that nothing has happened until April when the announcement was made, I have a hunch that you probably saw some, go ahead and get this order ready November, December kind of things. So just enough of a lead time that we can actually have things ready for this time next year.
Yep. So there you go. A little bit of just clarification on that. Unbeaten Lake says every college football team needs to bring back the silver lined pants. I am not recalling what he's saying here. Clint, do you?
I'm not entirely sure what you're getting at either, but
I'm trying to think about what is it the shimmer that was on
the metallic shimmer
of it? I think I know what he's talking about now. And that's, you want to talk about core memories. That's like a buzzword this stream.
Oh, God.
I think I know what he's talking about, and I would disagree.
Well, why don't you say it just so that he can come back and tell us that you were wrong?
No, I don't like the silver. What I'm thinking of and what he's mentioning, I don't like it. I want, it was just this like, it was almost the material more than the look of it. And I remember how uncomfortable it felt on skin.
Well, if it's the shimmer fabric that you saw on like, Georgia or, the New Orleans Saints, stuff like that, it doesn't exist anymore.
Well,
plain
there you go.
That's why you see such dull gold right now, and that Georgia is more wearing gray pants than silver pants, that kind of thing. It simply doesn't exist because of the technology advances. They cannot do all the moisture wicking and everything. It can't meet their requirements and be metallic as well. I think it's a little bit of a cop out of an answer from all of those companies, but that's what they've been telling us for years.
Unbeaten Lake asked earlier in the stream, and I don't know if we answered this in some of your explanations or not, but has Under Armour updated the pants since 2015?
I am sure they have, and I mentioned it in the article. I quite honestly don't really pay close attention to the pants because it's really hard to kind of get really good sourcing of that. Photos don't really center around the pants, so it's kind of hard to
jersey, all that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get really detailed information about the stitching on the pants and how it forms. So as far as my mock-ups go, I've just been using the 2015 pants up until this new template. So take that for what it's worth.
I'm going to bring up an interesting comment here, and it's he meant this in jest, but with the conversation around ways to make money for certain things that have to be paid for because of certain lawsuits and NIL, will we ever see logos of companies on the jerseys?
Will we? Yes.
How soon?
I hope not this year.
Are you suspicious of this year?
Yes.
Oh man.
And here's why. Last week, the week before, the Ole Miss athletic director was quoted saying that he expects it to happen very soon, and that Ole Miss is already in talks of jersey ads, and that came as a footnote to there are already discussions and contracts in place for teams to have advertising logos on their football fields. And remember, that was a rule that had just been approved beginning of June by the NCAA. So you might see me back on here before the football season starts talking about something like that.
Hint, hint, wink, wink. Now, I got to wonder, though, how does that work with NIL? Because this is a player sporting a business that maybe they don't have an NIL deal with.
Well, it doesn't. So, I mean, I can't speak about NIL because I don't know.
Right,
but
right.
let's take the NFL, for example. You have, Patrick Mahomes is an Adidas athlete. He is sponsored by Adidas. He wore, a Texas Tech Under Armour shirt, but taped over the Under Armour logo because he legally cannot be seen wearing it. And yet he is photographed and displayed on Adidas's website with the Nike swoosh on the shoulder. So there's just a different level. So you've got kind of your league sponsor, you've got your team sponsor, and then you have your individual sponsors.
Sure.
And those details just have to be ironed out between you and your player and their individual.
That's a lot of paperwork.
And it's all you got to do. I mean, if I'm, I don't know if I'm, if I've got Fuzaklis as a NIL sponsor for me, but the team has an ad patch from Guffrey's, it's not a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
It's just there's only one that is legally allowed to be on the jersey. So Fuz just has to get over it. It's just that's how it's going to be.
You would bring up certain food establishments that we've had.
That was really the only thing that I could get to, and it just worked.
Zaxby's. But anyway, so we'll keep going there.
Oh, and Dalton just said, wearing Zaxby's thin gloves. I would not be surprised if we see that at some point. So,
oh man!
And again, just to kind of go down that rabbit hole right now, the
Lord.
NCAA rulebook states you cannot have anything but your manufacturer and your school logo. I mean, we talked about it last time I was on here. You can't even have your battle cry on.
That still makes me so mad.
It's dumb, but that might change.
Yeah,
And again, just remember, all of this crap that we're dealing with in this college athletics world is because nobody wanted to adjust and modernize, because lawsuits are fun.
Let's bring this from our good friend Avery. Think Nike will convince Auburn to down the green once more.
This is Dawn the green. We can only hope, because I want to see it catch fire.
Well, something will catch fire, and it will be just the internet's just exploding with it.
And again, if you don't know that story, in the 1930s, Auburn did wear green because the coach was a Notre Dame alum and he wanted to show off how much he loved his school. So that article is also on auburnuniforms.com if you want to go check it out.
That just feels so wrong to me. Like, you're at this school. Don't make us wear your colors. Like, I don't know.
It's happened a lot.
I know.
You see that all the time.
I get it. I know. Shifting from one color to the next, will Auburn bring back the orange traditional jersey? I don't know that you'd call it traditional, but orange.
I get this question a lot, especially and I think JV might be inferring that with the change to Nike. Just remember, the school gets to decide what is worn. The people who have said no to alternate football uniforms for decades are still in charge. So while Nike might have better salesmen and are able to, kind of convince Auburn better, it's going to be Auburn's decision to do so, not Nike's.
And I'm one of those that continues to push back against that. So you're welcome. I don't know that I will begrudgingly accept the orange jerseys, but I talked about this with, I know, listen, but you know this about me. You come here, I'm a traditionalist.
Oh, I was talking to Neil.
Oh, I thought you were talking to Neil.
I said, come on, Neil.
Black and Decker. Anyway, so a lot of different topics, a lot of different companies you could throw on things. We had a bunch of different things in Q&A here. I knew we would get our orange and green or orange jersey question, things about that. You saw early in the chat too, lots of people are super excited about the Nike thing, but folks, you got a whole year left of Under Armour. So enjoy that. Oh, that brings me a question that came up really early in the chat that I think would be very informative. Let me see if I can find it. I know
I wish I could bring up comments while he's doing this, because there's 2 right here at the end that I would like to get to. But
okay. Well, here, why are you doing that?
No, you bring it up. You bring it up.
I haven't found it yet. So let's do this one here. Dalton, I guess, is who you want to talk to, or
Yes.
okay.
Let's do Dalton and then Auburn Tiger 1.
So do y'all
after
hear
this.
more people wanting orange or fighting against it in your circle? So you talk about that while I find out.
If I had to say it, I'd probably say it's probably 60-40. Let's do it. So it's kind of split down the middle. There's just a lot of people who don't want it to happen, but I think there are enough people who would like to see something change once. And as we've talked on here multiple times, the face mask kind of just gave a nice hint of what can happen.
Yeah.
And it kind of sufficed for a little bit, but I don't think that's going to last.
Okay. I found the comment here. This is something you've talked about before, but just for people's information, will we be able to buy extra Under Armour leftover gear?
Man, I hope so. I really hope so. So many schools have yard sales and just put out their surplus stuff. Oregon, Air Force, Texas, TCU, Virginia. Like, it's just an annual thing at a lot of these schools, and you can buy a jersey for $20. You can buy pants. You can buy a helmet for a couple $100 and all this kind of stuff. And I would spend a fortune doing it, but I would love to be able to do that one day.
I think Dalton is on my team.
Nope, you're wrong.
Yes, he's not
wrong.
He is right. He is right. The white face mask or the dark face mask. That's it. That's all we need.
And then Auburn Tiger 1 again.
Okay. I hope no orange jerseys. We got our butts handed to us last time we wore them. Take it. I knew you were going to
Now, I'm pretty sure this was the same person who commented last time I was on about the orange jerseys. And we mentioned it then. This is factually inaccurate. It's just not true. And I mean, losing by 10 to the #1 team in the country with Herschel Walker, if that's getting your butt handed to you, sure. But as an underdog, as a supreme underdog, like, Auburn had no chance in this game, and they made it a game towards the end. Again, the history and how it all plays out is available on auburnuniforms.com.
Yeah, go check that out if you want to get the information on it. He's done a lot of drop shadows or get the heck out.
Surprisingly, I think the drop shadows might be more divisive than the orange jerseys. You either love them or you hate them.
So what I'm picking up to round everything out here, we talked about.
Yes, Gardner.
In uniforms are just divisive. They're just, it's just what it is. Just what it is.
And again, I think I mentioned it 2 weeks ago. What I really enjoy about this is we can all have a conversation about this topic and not really need to know anything about it. You could just look at a uniform, it's like, I like it, I don't like it, here's why I don't, here's why I do, all that kind of stuff. And it's much harder to do that with football strategy, with the X's and O's. A lot of people try to and think they are, wink, wink, that guy. That guy. No, yeah, I did it right that time. But it's just, this is such a simple playing field that we all get to play on at the same time, and I really do enjoy that community around it.
Well, we enjoy you coming here and obviously informing us, but entertaining us as well. So there you go. That is our stream for what's new with Auburn uniforms, and a little bit of Q&A at the end of this. Clint, as always, thank you so much for hanging out with us and being here.
Of course.
You guys, thank you so much for tuning in, hanging out with us as well, with me and Clint. And be sure to subscribe here. Check out those link descriptions for ways that you can support us as well. And please do visit auburnuniforms.com for all your Auburn aesthetic and Auburn history needs. Until we talk to you again, history. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.
War Eagle.